Thank you very much. Good morning. Saying I'm happy to be there is a small word. I've retired at the end of the 2023, but I've accepted to come here on the invitation of Hugh and Richard before that. And I was a bit bothered because I have already spoken in some transit mapping symposiums in 18 and in 22. So I was wondering how I could bring something different. And you told me, please feel free. Okay. So, you know, when you retire, and for me, it's not completely not a moment where I have stopped working. It's different. You think much about what you have done, what you can transmit, what you can share with the others, the colleagues, the younger people, also the directors and the decision makers. And I've thought, yes, I'm Japanese, but I'm French. 100%, 100%. Not 20, 80, 100, 100. So, because of that, I will perhaps speak of these two cities. And when you start to assemble all the elements, it's really inspiring. I will so have two parts, Paris, Tokyo, and then I will try to propose you some cross findings. So I hope it will be inspiring for you. So first, Paris. Paris, after the pandemic, it's really much more a pedestrian city, a biking city. For people who didn't go there after 2010, please fly there and visit the place. It's really different. But I want to begin with that. You know the motto, liberté, égalité, fraternité. When I was presenting something about underground urbanism in a seminar in Singapore, it was in 2012, somebody has asked me why there was such a difference between Paris and the suburbs. So if you consider all the metropolises, you can see that there is really a limit, that the ring motorway is like fortifications. There is a cultural border between intramuros, extramuros. This is and muros means walls. Inside the walls, outside the walls. This is the word we use in French. But inside the walls, the project in the beginning of the 20th century when the metro was planned was to create a system in which all the Parisians would be not further than 400 meters from a metro station. And the answer, when I said that, somebody in the audience said, oh, liberté, égalité, fraternité, égalité. I had never thought about that. So that was really deeply cultural because Paris in year 1900, when the metro began, was like the center of the world in arts and technology. And so it was deeply thought as a utopic project. And you see now that the metro network is respecting this rule. And especially in the frame of the street mapping of Paris, because if you want to learn Paris, you can learn the metro map. You can see here the overlapping between the metro network, the streets network, and now I found that on the web, the biking master plan. It's always the same. So we are lucky in this city because you don't find that in London, you don't find that in Tokyo, perhaps a bit in Moscow, but you don't find that in Madrid. The metro map is completely not describing the city. So that's really interesting because it helps catching the city to be comfortable with it, because there are many other elements which make you very tired in Paris. So this was for intelligibility, but now for complexity, we are also lucky, because French politics were in love with transportation. You know that we are now building a new metro network around Paris, 35 billion euros, 200 kilometers, 65 stations, delivered in 2023, began in 2010. So, yes, it's the third network after the metro, the RER, and now the Grand Paris Express. So that will be called Metro, 15, 16, 17, 18. So, before that, the bus system and the metro system have been developed. Just after the war, they have been optimized in multimodality, but you can't represent the both network on the same map. It's impossible. And this complexity can be added to the other one. So on the left, you can see the present Île-de-France mobility map for the whole region. But when you will add the Grand Paris, how will you describe the network? How can people, normal people, can deal with this amount of data? Hugh has tried, you know, here, Hugh's work. Okay, it's beautiful. But how to present that in a small format? Before optimizing that, you can see also that if you take the center or the suburbs, it doesn't give the same results in cognition. So how to balance that? So these are new questions for rich people we are in Paris. When we have this network, we have problems of rich people. We are in abundance. I think we can share that with some big metropolises. It's not the case of many cities which have to deal with some other issues. Now I enter in the historical path I want to show you. I'm showing this fantastic work made by Roger Talon's team. When I entered the RATP, I was 22, and at 25, I was asked to give orders to Mr. Roger Talon. So my boss was saying, yeah, you tell that. And I have been adopted by him, so it was very cool. During 10 years, perhaps, I've met him. And he had just done a work before I entered the company. It was the RER design charter. Because at the beginning, the 70s and the 80s, Paris has begun to build the Réseau Express Régional or the Métro Régional, something new. And because RATP and SNCF, the national railways, were going together to create this regional metro for the region, we had to get a brand, a logo. And this was the answer of this team led by Roger Talon, held by Massimo Vignelli, who had done the New York signage standards, which are perhaps the matrix of all the systems in the world now, and also with Rudy Meyer, who was the typographer, the map maker, and Albert Botton, the typographer. So it was a fantastic team. I inherited that just when I entered in the company, and I was responsible of publishing the standards. So I didn't do anything, but some adaptation of the texts to match to the company. And then it was the beginning. It was in 82, and then I entered in the marketing unit because design was not existing yet. And 5 years after, in '87, I've been asked to redesign all the collections of maps, because we had been involved in a digital solution which was called Situ, that was some objects in the streets on which you could type your destination, and it was giving you a ticket, go to this station and then take the bus to this station. It will take 25 minutes, more or less. It was fantastic, but not connected. So there was no internet at that moment, so it was really difficult to manage. And the president at that time was completely unaware about that, so he said, stop it, stop it. And the budget was available, so my boss asked me, so if you could redesign the maps, yes, what a gift. So I did that with my colleague Patrice Rouxel, and yes, it was the first job. We wanted to represent Paris in the shape of the monthly pass, the carte orange, which was this size, and you were putting that in a plastic bag, and so on one side you had the ticket, on the other side you had the map. So still now I can read it, but there are many failures on that if you consider the design rules, but in fact it works. And we made a collection of maps with schematic and geographic ones. So this is the first one which was published in the suburbs. You can guess Paris is on the upper right, and so the southwest suburbs, the first zone, and all the region has been covered by 15 maps. And this is a zoom on the Paris bus system. And at that time we have tried a darker gray system with an American presentation. We don't find that we were not finding that in Europe. And the schematic one, I was rather happy about this bus map, because you can see here the details. It was showing really correctly the network. Of course, you couldn't do something, create a trip with that. But if you had the network in mind, it was really helpful to make your neurons move. And so for the geography one, this was the conclusion. After this dark gray possibility, we have jumped to a more classical situation. So it was always about around Bastille. And the map I was the more proud was this one. Impossible to use, the whole network. So I didn't find any digital file, so I had to scan a scan. So it was in '89, you know. But you can guess all the communes have a different gray. You can guess that dark gray, cool gray, warm gray. So it was a festival of grays, festival of colors. But there is an issue after that. Is it for usage or for image? Nobody could use it. The only people who were happy were my colleagues, responsible for the bus system. Yes, we see our system. Yes, but nobody can use it. So, and at that time, my boss, marketing boss, was saying, yes, the map is finished. You will have digital solutions. I was so sad hearing that. Yes, we'll have at least do that, and this has happened. But the map is lively again. So live again. So what he was saying has happened a bit, but not completely. So at that time, you can see that there was also a festival of colors. It pushed us to create, to rationalize the color code for the bus system. So in Paris, it is the only big metropolis where one line has one color. Of course, there are not 300 colors. There are only 12 or 13. It's too much, but it was necessary to distinguish the lines on the maps. So you can see here on the left, the 47 is pink. But applying this pink to serigraphy here on the, oops, I have to put that here. Here, this is in serigraphy. It must work in the night with the light behind, in the day with the light in front. So you can imagine what that means for producing the right color. This is painted. This is printed in quadrichromy, and this is you can have also some other printing. So it was a it was really a big issue to standardize these colors. It was almost impossible, but we tried to do 80% of the work, helped by the blind and the blind impaired people associations to create the good contrasts, you know, to have on some colors it's written in white, in some colors it's written in black. So we have changed many things after the consultation of these people. It was very interesting. And so it was the kickoff to redesign completely the system. The team, I was not in charge about that, but a team, because at that time I was in charge of product design. So the graphic design team has created this standard on the left, which is really interesting. And so it was our life. But because we are entering in a period where all the network will be tendered, Île-de-France Mobilité, our authority, has redesigned the system, and they have done that. This was before, and this is now. When I show that, I'm sad, because it means that the communication between the authority and us was not good enough, because we had prepared the system to be multimodal completely. But because it was so strong, the authority has said it's too much flavored RATP. So we can't take that to impose that to other companies. Okay, this is new life. And this illustrates the fact that for the designer can be, it's a free, perhaps a free job, but it has to answer to a demand. So my work during 40 years was not to design, but to manage the design, to try to transform the orders so that the designers, the architects, the artists could do the good jobs. If they receive bad orders, they will do bad results. So design or design management, what is the emergency? Where to put the effort? So on our side, the team has made this fantastic job of creating a design system, 1,000 pages, 1,000 pages of guidelines. I don't know who can use them. The team, yes, but is it in the present life a tool which can be really shared with many professionals? You can see that for a network like Paris, it's very difficult. But we do that. You can see here, for example, that there's a Guimard entrance here. So it's really specific to Paris. And this is also something very specific, the urban anchorage. The streets plates give the station name plates. And then on the screens, they say, you are in Mairie de Montrouge, or you go to Gare d'Austerlitz. It's in blue, always. So when you're in Gare d'Austerlitz, you have to choose your exit, and then you follow the signs to go out. So when it's blue, it means the city. So simple. When you're in the system, When you want to continue to the network, it's on white back. Go to the city, it's on blue back. Some networks don't do that. I don't know why, but it's so easy. And you find that in the stations, of course. The station is in blue. Here it's in blue, so it's in blue here. It's easy. A kid can understand. And the other elements, which is very particular to our system, is the bus line maps. This is the map for the line 67 now. But this was the same 60 years ago. There was a tradition of geographic map. Even if the left one is in the modern electric bus, the old one was in this old bus. I've seen that when I was a kid. So you can see here 2 other lines. You have 300 lines, and these were the 300 line maps we had, which were drawn by the internal team. So it goes on, but does this continue a long time? I'm very afraid. I will tell you why. It's not because the skills will disappear. It's because in the KPI between the authority and the network, it's written a bus must show a line map. Okay, that's true, okay. But to optimize the management of the fleet, buses can jump from a line to another on the same day. When it's digital outside, you can change what is displayed, but inside it's more difficult if you don't have the screens. So some depots has begun to put maps with several lines, but not geographic, schematic. So you are in the bus, you are seeing three lines, it's moving, it's impossible to use. So we create so it's a case we should give to the wayfinding class here. So I'll tell them, the decision makers, that it's completely silly. So these bus graphic codes are also used for this on the digital apps, the website, the different apps, the RATP and the others are always the same. You can see more or less, you can find the 67 in pink. And also on all the screens, because the thousands of screens which have been implemented on the networks during the 10 last years are presenting always the same signs. And we have created a consistent journey in science, so that there is fil rouge, a common thread, which continues throughout all the steps of a passenger journey. So we're very proud that after the kickoff with the RER, it was in 82, we are 40 years after, we have completely transformed. So now I will say now they, because I'm not in the team now, but and this is fragile. A decision can completely break this one. And other directors in other cities don't understand that it can happen. So, Tokyo now. So I was born in Paris, but at 7 years old, I was invited, yes, no. My mother brought me to Tokyo with a plane, 707 Intercontinental, and I've discovered the trains. I was a train geek when I was a child. I have tried to transform that in a skill, but this is the picture with the present trains. At that time already, the trains were in color, and for me, they were like toys. I was seeing them from the room where I was, through the window. I was seeing these orange, green trains passing, oh, like toys. And this has made, in my mind, and perhaps in many Tokyo people, created the idea that it's joyful. Train is joyful, even if you are very, very cramped in trains. You can see that it's easy. And the metro also has followed the rule. Each line has its color. So, and when I follow this, it's like a play. I show you that, the names are Ginza, Marunouchi, Hibiya, Tozai, Chiyoda, Yurakucho, and then Hanzomon, Namboku, Fukutoshin, Asakusa, Shinjuku, Mita, and Edo. So the names are not only always the same, you can understand on the right, the first letter, because some lines have been named with the same. If they had known that, perhaps they wouldn't have given these names, but it was given much before that. So it creates a language of maps. So in Tokyo too, it's impossible to show the whole network on the same map. So on the left, you have the 23 regional metropolitan line of JR East. On the right, the 13 metro lines of the two companies, Tokyo Metro and Toei. And if you want to gather all, it gives that. It's an artwork, okay? And again, who can use that? Because on the left, you can see the 30 companies which are operating in Tokyo, more than 30. So it's really a stake, how to do that. Again, Hugh has tried. But exhaustiveness or selectiveness? Because when it's exhaustive, it's small. So now I begin not to be able to see everything without my additional glasses. So it's not so comfortable. But I love the work, of course. So I will insist on one point in Tokyo. It's the framework created by this Yamanote line. If you know Tokyo, you will know Yamanote line. It's the green line making a ring 35 kilometers around the core of the city, the same size than the périphérique in Paris, the same size as the Circle Line in London. And there was a rule, if you see the tracks on the right, the private companies were not allowed to enter in the ring. Inside it's not written, but the metro was the zones for the metro. So all the stations have become hubs where people were transferring from one line to another. So you will see the consequence of that. Now, 11 of the 13 lines are in through operation, so the metro lines continue on the suburban networks with technical agreements and commercial agreements, so it creates a whole 1,000 kilometers network, so it's fantastic, but it's not always clear, because on one line, for example, it's not written here, but the metro line, for example, which is the Fukutoshin, which is brown, you have 4 other companies which enter in, and the trains are not brown. So 5 types of trains on the same line. But about the hubs, you know the places, Shibuya, Shinjuku, Ueno, they are well known as Saint-Germain-des-Prés, Champs-Élysées, Pasadena, Santa Monica in Los Angeles. So they are now famous, worldwide famous, because of the train. Because people had to change from one train to another, from the train to the metro. The companies have built commercial centers and shops and hotels and so on, and very lively very active districts have been created. For example, here in Shinjuku and Shibuya, these are the two I prefer, in fact, in Tokyo. Shinjuku is a juxtaposition of 6 companies. So it's really complicated. If somebody tells you, oh, let's meet in Shinjuku, it's a trap. You have to ask, where in Shinjuku? On the right, you have Shibuya, in which you can see here this rectangle. It's a gathering of 3 companies, Tokyo Metro, Keio, and Tokyo, which have created a subsidiary, and the subsidiary has built a complex with hotel, offices, maintenance yard for the metro line, a final station for the Inokashira line, and a shopping center, an internal street. So it's really interesting because it transforms the wayfinding issue in an easy shopping center issue, in fact. It's not in the city, it's in a complex. But it's sometimes, for people who are not used to, difficult to understand that the entrance of the hotel is beside the platform number 3. But it's interesting. But in Shinjuku, where the places are separated, it's compulsory to show the limits, the thresholds. So this is the way the companies do, using the corporate color to create a limit, and it significates you are entering in the Keio zone, you are entering in the Odakyu zone. But it's important because all these companies are private and different. But at the same time, you have the station maps. Whew. In fact, it's a language, because Japanese pupils learn how to use a map at school. They learn that. So after that, they are not shocked when they have that presented in some books, in some guides. When I was doing my trips there with my colleagues, RATP colleagues, they were all amazed, but they were also amazed that the Japanese were not amazed about that. One of the best thing which is existing is the neighborhood maps. So the Tokyo Metro ones are the best. So you understand that the link between the network and the city is really important, but there is something special in Japan because the streets have no names. And a house is not numbered, it's not the flowing number after the neighbor. So it's very difficult to find. So if you have a navigator, you can find. But before the navigators, you have to go to the police box to ask where the Sotokanda 778 was, and they, oh, it's here. So it's very important to have local maps with public points of interest and private ones which pay a fee every year. Here you can see the rule and the exit codes, so you can follow. So this is really a very interesting feature, existing for a long time, perhaps for 50 years and much more than that, and using always this emblematic yellow, which means for in nationwide exit. So in Paris, it was blue on the RATP and to go to the city, and in Japan, it's yellow, but everywhere. The other element I want to show you here as a tool for mapping is the code. You know, if you have studied a bit Japanese writing, it's the only language created by 4 series of signs. The characters, the first alphabet, the second alphabet, and the Roman alphabet. So everything is mixed. You can see it's mixed. And it's completely natural. You will not find that in Chinese, will not find in Arabic, you will not find in elsewhere. But it creates some difficulties because you have to learn. For me, for example, I've learned the kanji, but I've forgotten. So I read in hiragana, so the first alphabet or in the second alphabet. So here you have the station Shibuya. shared by Tokyo and Tokyo Metro. You can see how it's written on the panel. Shibuya. This is on the JR company, the same station, Shibuya. These are all the codes for Shibuya. Shibuya, Shibuya, Shibuya. So, and then SBY, and then the 3 codes of the 3 JR East lines, and then the codes for each line of Tokyo Metro, Keio, and Tokyo. Crazy, no? This is a culture where quality is created by addition. I've asked my Japanese colleagues, do you want to create some subtraction and put something? Oh, it's very difficult to put away something which is already existing. So the language is made of 4 serious scenes. The places codes are multiple. So, and how you put that on the map? So, you have only the codes for the metro lines. You have not the codes for the JR and the other companies. I think it's impossible to create. You can you do. So, and it's also used in the maps are used in the architecture in the stations. The maps are really present in the signage, and it creates some very good solutions. Like here in Shibuya, a station made by Tadao Ando, where there is a confluence, a convergence between graphics, objects, and space. So this is the ideal objective we have to have. I will show you that a bit before concluding. I will try to have the pointer. I am sorry, perhaps there will not be any sound, yes, and there is publicity at the beginning.
Devotion by Dolce & Gabbana, a new fragrance for her.
جاهزة تشغلين كل شيء مع يانجو بلاي؟ جاهزة مثل ذاك المسلسل اللي من زمان تنتظرونه أو هذه الأغنية اللي في بالك. طول اليوم يوتيوب شغل لين ما إيدك تقول بس شغل كل شيء على يانجو بلاي التطبيق السوبر الترفيهي مجانا لمدة 60 يوم.
Ah oui, tu l'as pas. Sorry, I have forgotten to. On the left.
Yeah, just one thing. Okay.
You understand that each station of the Yamanote has its own music. So when the doors have to close, it's not like Paris where no, this is Shinjuku. And not the same sound on the one side and the other side. This is Shibuya. So there are 23 or 24 stations. I will not, but I love this music. Tokyo. It's for me, and for the Tokyo-jin, the Tokyo people, it's really, it belongs to the life. And so all the tourists say, oh, there is some music, but it's really useful. That's wayfinding through sound. Shibuya. So the name which is written is the name of the song. So I will finish there. And then stop. And then I have to come back. No, yes, this is the presentation mode, so now I will continue. So my cross-finding, it's simple, it's in 6 points. You know where it is? It is in Louvre, Abu Dhabi. So I've seen Tokyo and Paris, the same surface. Oh, I have my conclusive picture. So, first point, abundance is not always a gift. how to deal with that. We have the issue in Paris with the Grand Paris, but all the big metropolises. So I hope that the work we are beginning with Hugh, he has described, will help us, but it's not sure. Because the targets are not the same for for example, for Dubai with 2 metro lines and for Paris or Tokyo, of course. Then the colors are compulsory. And you imagine that I was in a meeting I think in 2003 or 2004, where I have saved the color of the bus lines in Paris. It was not on the agenda but yes, it was about economics and how to create optimization, so make that less expensive and so on. No, I said. And people were saying, yes, I know, you are always defending that, but we have constraints, financial constraints. Yes, so I was really afraid. I was losing. And the person who has helped me was the human resource officer of the bus department who said, Yo is right, my kids are using that. And so the writers, by whom are you paid? By us or by your department? But you're okay, I listen to you, and I have won because of this person. Sometimes the story of the big issues, there are some moments. If I hadn't been in this meeting, it would have been lost. So, colors, then the hubs. It's a new issue because it's not the same issue as the networks. Difficult because it calls the capacity of representation people have. You don't make them jump in another schematic representation of life with the network map, but in the real, in the land where they are living, they are moving, and especially in 3D. How? 3D. How do you do that? I've said that one day in this Singapore conference, and people have answered me, oh, they will have the smartphone, and they will, yes, we'll all be robots, we'll fall in the staircases with them. So, no way. There is something to do, but it's not yet invented, because the mutation of our brain didn't happen yet. But at the same time, I insist on the fact, you say the same thing, but with other words, that the coherence between the science approach, the objects approach, and the spaces approach is compulsory. You have to create signs which go well on the object and in the space. We have to create spaces which welcome well the object and the science, and you have objects we go on. So it's not easy for the graphic designer, the product designer, and the architect to understand that at the beginning, really. And the best professionals had, at the beginning, difficulties to work with us. My final picture is that we are serving humans, moving humans. We are trying to feel their cognitive comfort and not to their cognitive, I would say, fatigue or tiredness. So, and if we are not aware about that, it's very easy to make the life crazy. So I think we are all there to do that, to create good trips. Merci. Oh, I'm late. I'm late.
No, we're good. We're gonna have a coffee break, but first, of course, I want to let you opportunity to ask any questions. Yes.
Yep. Good morning. My name is Adrian. I'm the principal wayfinding advisor for the Indonesian Railways as well for Jakarta. Fan of your work. I also actually tried to copy some of your principles to my wayfinding design in Jakarta. But the one thing that I most intrigued is about the bus number and the colors. Like how is there like a system on how do you like codify the colors within each number of the buses? Because I see it's quite not random, but I don't really see like a more like a codified design, because in Jakarta, I also have a problem with that. In Jakarta, we have around 300 routes of buses, and I was tasked back in 2016 to actually codify each of those buses with a single color like you do in Paris, but when what I did is to make like a grouping based on the number. So I'm just curious about how do you do it in Paris? Thank you.
Yes, it's a very good question. It's not written. We have shared that with some colleagues. There are 4 domains. The technical domain I've described, to produce the same effect through serigraphy, through printing, through screens. It's not easy, because it's not the same orange you have to produce if you want to create. There's a difference with the color produced and the effect. So first, technically. Then design. How to choose the colors, the numbers of colors, how to attribute the colors. And there are several religions. Some want to have the same color going to the same terminal. Some don't want to do that, but there are always consequences of the general map. You imagine that? Then you have the governance problem. Is the authority strong, powerful enough to impose that to the operators? So if it's not in the rules, it will never happen. And then the cultural issue, because some colors, cultural and I would say in a human issue, some colors are not distinguished by people. For example, we had 2 pinks at the beginning, abandoned, 2 dark blue, abandoned. So the 4 issues should be, so 4 domains should be studied land by land. What's happening in Indonesia is not the same as in Japan, is not the same as in France, depending on the local culture, depending on the... So, all the facts I've said. But what is compulsory is the technical management you have to do, because it's difficult to produce the defect. And it's difficult to maintain the skill throughout the decades. So, at one time, we were very happy to do that. I know my colleague and friend Magali, who is doing that now. When she will retire, will there be somebody to do the job? It's difficult to answer definitely.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Oh, yep.
Hi. You talked a little bit about operational decisions having like a negative impact on customer experience, for example, with the buses that are now operating on multiple routes. And I know that those 2 worlds kind of often like are at odds with each other. So I'm wondering if you have any sort of tips on like how to approach that and maybe like sway or change operational decisions from a customer or wayfinding perspective.
I think the way to follow is what Goffredo has shown, showing the consequences with some silly consequences, insane. You know you will get that? You know that? Perhaps I shouldn't decide that. So for that, you have to have three possibilities. You have to know what's happening. But many times, the designers, the engineering departments are not completely aware of the agenda, of the strategic agenda. So they have to have not spies, but they have to know what's happening, what decisions are, and you have to be involved in that. So, sorry, but I don't want to bother you, but perhaps you have not imagined the consequences of what you are thinking about. Okay, so if you establish a conversation, you are an influencer. But after that, you must be tactical with a tool. So you have to call the designers to create the decision makers are also human. When they say they see that, oh, I will decide something which will have this consequence, perhaps I shouldn't do that. So it's intimate, but you have to send it. Sometimes I've sent some PDFs, so you know that you will do that, poof, and then I wait. I don't do anything. And sometimes I see a counter decision. So you must be really tactical. And then you have also to have a vision, because when something is decided, which is not good, it's because there is a reason. So you have to, as designer, you have to understand the reason, the root, which is behind this problem. And then perhaps you could do also a job to help the person to solve the problem without doing this, taking this decision. So this is much more difficult because sometimes you don't have any solution. When it's political, for example, I don't want to do that because my previous one has done the contrary, so I want to change. Yeah, okay. How can you answer to that? So, but you have the skilled people have to have antennas in so you have to have the number of the chief of staff or the secretary. So you have many tacticals possible. I've used some at some times.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I think we're ready for our coffee break. Oh, another question? Oh, sorry. I didn't see it coming.
Yeah, hi, yo. Brilliant work, and I've been following you for many years. How is your team composition? The team that you led for last 20, 30 years, who were the kind of people you had in your team, and how big was your team?
Okay, the story is easy because at the end, so I was asked in 90 to build a design management team. 90. So before that, I was doing some design management in the marketing team about passenger information and rolling stock design. So I've been asked to do that in 90. So at the beginning, the team was not really skilled, very pleasant guys and girls, but okay. And transform that, gathering all the sub-disciplines until 30 people 21 years after, from 12 to 30, adding a cultural domain I have not spoken about, the artworks, and the heritage management. So this was a big team. But so the operational design management team was made of, I would say, almost 20 people. So jump from 12 to 20, but skilled. Then I left because 21 years in the same position is rather difficult. So I had successors who have changed the organization. Now the team in place is more or less the same as the one I left, but without the cultural part. It's made of 15 people really recruited as design managers. So in design schools, in engineering schools, in commercial schools, but really skilled in managing design and having conversations with the technical engineers of maintenance, operation, engineering. So speaking the language of the other is very important. Not being as you don't understand me. No, I want to understand you to answer you. So, and now on my side, I was not the responsible of the team. After 2011, during 13 years, I was in the direction level, helping the team to work. And so now, if you want, I can give you the contact of my colleagues who are, passenger information, there are not more than 5 or 6, I don't know exactly, 5 I think, but they are linked with others who are in other departments. For example, maintenance of the signage, there is a workshop for that. Communication team is a workshop, a team for that, for all the temporary situation you have to add, because I didn't show you, we are doing so many works on the network that we have to close the line, and we have to inform in another language than that what is working is not working, so please do that, do that. So there are other teams. So the team in the design, in my previous department, was 5 people about passenger information, but they were at the head of the network of, I would say, for the company of 44,000 people. There were the team, the network was made of 20 or 30 people throughout the organization.
Thanks.
I will crash the pose.
Hello, it was an honor listening to your insights about the different maps. I'm actually asking this question on behalf of a friend, but it's really interesting. Like, I really love the way you compared 2 different cities and the differences. You see the similarities, but also the elements that make each one distinct. But one question my friend had was, how do you, given that, like when you're met with designing a new metro line for a city, there's a tendency to reference works from previous people and elements that have worked throughout history. So how do you, when you're designing a new metro map, do you make it distinct and unique to each city?
It's really interesting because you have, I think, several ways to behave. If I was Hugh, I would say I will use the rules which have been verified in many cities. I will flavor them by local culture. It works very well, but I think that there are there are other ways to do that. For example, when you have a long tradition of something, for example, for the bus line maps in Paris, you have to take what's coming from this experience, the professional experience, because it corresponds, it's linked to a cultural people's experience, you know? If something is existing for more than almost 1 century, I didn't date notice the beginning of the geographical bus line maps, but more or less 100 years, I think. When it's so deep, you can't avoid that. You can exploit more what's happening on the land, on the culture, to try to apply standardized rules, because I have two targets in mind. First, we are mobile. We are very international. We jump from a city to another. When you go to a city, why is it necessary to relearn everything? So standards are very important, and this is the way Hugh and the group in the Design and Culture Committee is working to try to publish some recommendations. But at the same time, you have to be careful about what is really existing locally. I will give you my last answer with something without, which is not about the maps. I have a friend designer in France, Vincent Créance, who was responsible for the MBD design agency during 10 years, and he'd made many designs for many rolling stocks in China. So CRC, or CRC, CSC, or Alstom were hiring him to try to make the good solution, the good design. And at that time, he has met so many people who were decision makers, but who were not aware at all about what design was. So, I want a Western designer. Okay, but to do what? So the first job he was doing was to study the local culture of Chengdu, of Qinghao, or Shenyang, and to present a board of, this is you. And do you want to go there, or there? And they were discovering the problem. So, when you work in design, you have to be aware about the local culture, because it's people. You are touching the people who are living there. So even if the decision makers are not aware because they are not skilled about that, you have to bring the voice of the people through this type of. So you understand it's not a tool. You have to be skilled to go further, balancing the standards and the local elements.
Thank you so much.
Sorry, one more. All those maps, whenever you had a new line coming, were you involved into the station namings and how it will make sense that when it's realized on the map graphically, it still makes sense for the place that people will be visiting? Because we do have so often names, and mainly in the Middle East, where it's very hard that the name means nothing with the actual placement of the station. I would say Paris will, the intramuros Paris is very easy. It became a given by the history of the city. But when it comes to those new lines, how did you deal with it, and were you involved with this? Because I would be really interesting to know how those names were taken and how you translate.
Yes, this is a very interesting question, and Hugh and Richard, you could do a complete session about naming, place naming. I was really concerned by the question in the 90s because I was receiving some letters coming from local politicians asking the president, please change that. Please. So, and I was in charge of creating the answer. So at the time I was writing and giving things to the director to sign, okay? But my answer was, I have said, my answer will be at 99% no. But I will explain you why, and perhaps it's a question which can push to propose something else in cultural domain, in decoration of the station, so on, but not in naming, because we are dealing with something which is common to all the people. But, and so we have created a rule, we have shared with our authority, Île-de-France Mobilité, they are okay with us. Naming is not a commemorative way. For example, somebody wanted to give the name Louis Braille to the Marne-la-Vallée, to the Euro Disney station. Louis Braille is the inventor of the blind language, you know, with points. What is the link between Louis Braille and this place? No. It's Chessy, so it will be Marne-la-Vallée Chessy. We have to do something for Louis Braille, but not there. So our rule is to use the local names which are previously existing. And so when the source is rich, it's easy. When it's not rich, it's really difficult. In the Paris region, inside Paris is okay. Outside Paris, you have the communes names. But sometimes it creates some really political changes. For example, La Île-et-Rose, which will be on the extension line 14, is on the territory of La Île-et-Rose, but absolutely not in the center. So in 10 years, there will be a mismatch between what is La Île-et-Rose and what is the station La Île-et-Rose. Interesting to see what will happen, but it's legal. So after that, the problem is the other logical which can enter in the system. Is it the naming? In French we say le naming. So in French, the naming, the commercial naming is authorized or not. In Dubai, I went to Dubai, it will be the 4th time I will go there. And the hotel I was in 2 years ago, had changed 3 times the station name. I have forgotten it. So it was not on the maps. If you search on Google the maps, you don't, it's not dated. So is it this station or the station? So this is really a responsibility that the authorities should integrate, but it's not easy because it's honest money you can earn. In Spain, Puerta del Sol was Sol Vodafone. during 1 year, but they have paid much. For us, in Paris, we'd never do that. Even for the Bercy, the Arena, we have been asked to call the station Bercy Accor Arena. No, Bercy. We have added Arena at but not the name of the arena, because there are several. The name can change. For example, it's Accor, and in 10 years perhaps it's Bouygues. So it's really a domain which can be studied more.
Yeah, definitely. I know, like Châtelet, at some point, because of some events, you created like Paris Plage, like kind of like a sub name or attached to the event at some point, I could see. Is there like a rule for that you...
In Châtelet? Perhaps you are, because the hub is so large, we have creating 3 districts. Châtelet-Seine, Châtelet-Rivoli, and Châtelet-Forum. So, but we're not completely happy about that, because we have added like an arrondissement number. So perhaps if we were doing that in Tokyo, it would be too complicated. So I've already said to my colleagues, no, it's not necessary to do that. We have done that. It's not bothering, but it's not about Paris Plage. It's about the humanization of a big underground complex with 3 districts.
Thank you very much.
Okay, anyone